Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with a midweek update in the world of cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And then, of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. Then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and then take advantage whenever you're ready. But we're going to start with this announcement from Amazon Public Policy. Now, I'm just going to share the snippet, and we're actually going to jump to the article later in the video, but just wanted to announce that this is big news, especially coming from a large tech company that can help influence maybe other tech companies' views towards cannabis, that we are pleased to endorse Rep. Nancy Mace's States Reform Act. And this is definitely the best bill for the industry. Like so many in this country, we believe it's time to reform the nation's cannabis policy, and Amazon is committed to helping lead the effort. And while this was unexpected, I definitely think it adds to the conviction, and it was something very nice to see, especially as we move through one of the most volatile weeks that we've certainly been through. So on to some state figures. This one comes from MJ Biz Daily, as the licensed adult use cannabis market in Massachusetts continues its rapid growth, posting total sales of $2.54 billion in a little more than 3 years since launching their adult use program. And the state's Cannabis Control Commission posted the new figures only a few months after sales broke the $2 billion mark, so clearly it didn't take that long to get to 2.5. While the state reached $1 billion in recreational cannabis sales in November of 2020, so far Massachusetts regulators have licensed more than 160 adult use retailers, though not all of those stores have begun operations. So clearly that's a lot of sales with a very small number of stores, while at the same time, by the end of 2021, the state had received more than 1,300 adult use cannabis applications and 900 plus were approved. So it sounds like there are a lot more stores on the way. And on top of that, we got this other news out of Massachusetts that cannabis excise tax revenues actually exceed alcohol for the first time. And we saw that in Illinois. Now we're seeing it out of Massachusetts, as changing attitudes towards cannabis and alcohol are helping drive increases in cannabis use, which is not necessarily a bad thing because, like any substance, moderation is key. But data obtained by Five Investigates reveals plenty of people are consuming it. Take excise taxes, which are levied on both alcohol and cannabis. Alcohol excise taxes have increased slightly in the past 5 fiscal years. Halfway through the current fiscal year, Massachusetts has collected $51.3 million so far in alcohol excise taxes. Seems like they could probably increase that and get better bang for their buck. While for the first time, cannabis excise taxes have exceeded alcohols, and at the same time, or at the same midway point during this fiscal year, the state had collected $74.2 million as of December 2021. So there's a nice little graphic to show you what they're saying, but this is another one of the benefits of ending cannabis prohibition for the states, and education seems to be going a long way in Massachusetts, which we love to see. On to this one from the Arizona Department of Revenue. I just found this, and it seems like this is where they've put the collection of cannabis sales and tax revenue for the entire first year since they've launched the program. So just wanted to share this if you wanted to take a look. This one covers the total tax collections from all jurisdictions for adult use, medical, excise tax in total. And I'm pretty sure this is for the sales where they reached $1.2 billion if we were to combine the adult use with medical use as well. But so this is taxable sales estimated to date. And so it's another great free resource from one of the states that have taken initiative so that we can find all the data that we need in one place, and that so we can check in monthly or every so often just to make sure that sales are continuing to grow and head in the right direction. So definitely going to favorite this page. And then lastly, just wanted to share this one from Todd Harrison, as Missouri dispensaries have sold more than $215 million worth of medical cannabis as of December. And so they add down here, medical cannabis dispensary sales began on October 16th, 2020. At the beginning of each month, cumulative sales through the previous months are posted. And so after their first full year and a few months, they've reached $215 million in total sales. So I imagine Missouri is very happy with the progress, and it would definitely be great for them to consider expanding this program, adding more dispensaries, and allowing more people to get access to a great non-addictive medicinal alternative. Well, this one comes from Marijuana Moment, as New York doctors can now recommend medical cannabis to patients for any condition they see fit, which I think is a great step in the right direction, because at least the good thing about cannabis is that no one is going to die from overusing it, and if cannabis doesn't work, then they can go seek some sort of other alternative medicine. But now, doctors will be able to issue medical cannabis recommendations to people for any condition that they feel could be treated by cannabis, rather than rely on a list of specific eligible maladies. Physicians were granted that discretion through the state's recreational cannabis law that was enacted last year. The expansion is being made possible as part of OCM's new medical cannabis program, certification, and registration systems. Adding, it is terrific to see the medical cannabis program expand so vastly with the launch of the new certification and registration program and the ability of practitioners to determine qualifying conditions as included in the MRTA, Cannabis Control Board Chair Chair Tremaine Wright said in a press release. So I think this is great news. I think this is a big precedent, as few other states likely have such lax laws on their medical cannabis and who they can prescribe it to. So hopefully we'll see other states adopt this, because at the end of the day, as long as the medicine isn't going to kill someone, it's worth giving it a shot, right? So on to some other tweets. This one comes from Graham at PV of Free Cash Flow. One hell of a dead cat bounce. And this was after Monday. What the hell is going on this week, folks? I have no idea, but it is very volatile. So just strap in, be patient, and continue to stack as much cash as you can and plan accordingly for your own situation. But on to some other ones. This one comes from Todd Harrison, sharing a snippet from Cantor Fitzgerald. So thank you, Todd, for sharing this, but just wanted to add some context, as he tweets this early before market even opened on Monday. It's January 24th, 2022. US cannabis ETF MSOS is down 11 straight months. And while this is very unfortunate, it is true, and very annoying for any of us that did not sell at the top in February, although it would have been very difficult for us to know that the Dems would have done absolutely nothing from then until now, given the opportunity that they've had. But I just wanted to highlight that I think it's quite funny, considering what I mentioned on Sunday and shared the interview from Boris. And what he said is that money managers know that MSOS is, mostly invested and they have little cash left. And so what they're going to try and do is bring the price down as far as they can to shake retail out. And then what do we see the end of Monday? It goes all the way back up and it closes green. Like, what is going on in the markets? I have no idea. But again, that's why the best thing you can do is control yourself and not try to control what's going on. Because believe me, I thought about selling some shares that day. I was like, man, this sucks. And then I didn't. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, glad I didn't do anything. Because at the end of the day, that's usually the best way to go in investing. And so just want to add what Pablo the Bull has to say. Apparently he's tossed in his towel. We fear a dead money scenario is likely in 2022. Interesting, but let's see a little bit more of what he added. We are cautious on 2022, but are buyers of selected names, even at the risk of a dead money scenario in the medium term. So basically, it's just him saying that he thinks it could be a dead money scenario, but we are buyers of selected names. So who are you buying then, Pablo? Taking a 2-year view among US operators, we would go for quality. The sector in general is inexpensive, trading at 6x our 2023 EBITDA estimates, and buy stocks here listed in alphabetical order, such as Cresco, Curaleaf, GreenThumb, and Trulieve. But beyond the US, surprisingly, Europe may become a larger sentiment driver in the year ahead, and Curaleaf may end up as a good way and perhaps better value to gain exposure there than the larger Canadian LPs, in our view, as Curaleaf trades at 2.8x full year 2023 estimate sales versus 9x 2023 estimate enterprise value divided by sales for Tilray and Canopy. So you can pause to read for a peek into Pablo's mind, but then also wanted to share this one from Todd Harrison. This group is called AGP, Alliance Global Partners, so just another investment firm, but speculation still. So again, don't take it as completely true. This comes from their analyst Aaron Gray on US cannabis, institutional research, 2-year take on US cannabis, then pre-COVID versus now, state-by-state momentum, then versus now. So not going to go through this one, but you can grab the link below or pause to read, but you might not be able to see the snippet here. On to this one from Puffdaddy, just highlighting what Trulieve's been doing over the last year, and I would say that the best way to describe that is executing, as Trulieve continues to impress with their integration of harvest assets. Remember Pablo, who we featured a few snippets ago, thought harvest deal wouldn't close until 2022. Well, fact is the deal closed in October of 2021, and Trulieve has already rebranded all Florida and Pennsylvania harvest assets as their own. And that comes from this press release as Trulieve celebrates completion of statewide retail rebrand in Pennsylvania. So obviously good to see that they are ahead of schedule and not behind, which is exactly what we want to see, especially out of some of the fastest growing companies in the largest emerging market in the US. While GreenThumb Industries plans to hold their fourth quarter and full year 2021 earnings conference call on March 1st, 2022, they announced yesterday that it will hold it on Tuesday, March 1st at 8 a.m. before market opens, following the release of its fourth quarter and full year 2021 financial results. And this is notable to me because as I've watched MSOs since 2019, this is the first time that Curaleaf is not going to be leading the earnings call. So not exactly sure why GreenThumb decided to do it ahead of Curaleaf, but that just means that we're actually closer to seeing the earnings come out than we were last week, as Curaleaf announced that they'll be doing it March 7th. So just a little over a month away, we're going to see the MSO earnings for their fourth quarter and full year 2021 results. And I imagine that they are going to be on trend or similar to what we've seen in the past and trending in the right direction. While Tilray announces that they've expanded their medical cannabis product offering in Australia, as they announced the expansion of its medical cannabis product offering in Australia and a new medical cannabis e-learning platform for healthcare providers. So Tilray's product offering in Australia, approved under the Therapeutic Goods Administration Special Access and Authorized Prescriber Scheme, is centered around its whole flower options ranging from balanced 1-to-1 whole flower, THC 10, CBD 10, including mid-range 17 and high THC varieties of 15-gram bag GMP certified medical cannabis whole flower. Which is great to see Tilray expanding their customer base, especially as a shareholder because Canada only has so many people that you can sell cannabis to, while Tilray's new medical cannabis educational platform for healthcare professionals is built on the importance of understanding the benefits derived from medical cannabis use. While to date, Tilray has successfully introduced multiple medical cannabis workshops across Australia and New Zealand, educating hundreds of healthcare practitioners in 2021. So good job, Tilray, but don't stop that in Canada and the US. In fact, please double down because we need that education now more than ever. And then on to this article from Forbes, touching back on what I started with. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace is on a mission to legalize cannabis, and Amazon just got behind her. And while I've covered a lot of the reasons as to why we need to end prohibition now, I just wanted to add a little bit as to the power that is now behind her and helping push this cause, which is ultimately a good thing because if we live in a world where it's just big money versus big money, let's at least be fighting for causes that help, the common people and the average Americans, Canadian, and all the citizens on the ground. So as Mace already has one of the most powerful conservative groups in the world in her corner, Charles Koch's Americans for Prosperity, now she is one of the world's largest companies supporting her bill, Amazon. And so this is new news, and again, great news for at least freeing this plant. In June, the retail giant announced that it would exclude cannabis from most of its employee drug testing and started lobbying to legalize cannabis. 6 months later, the company met with Mace and now says it will support her States Reform Act, which is again a big deal because Schumer's CAOA bill is terrible. We do not want that to pass. The States Reform Act only has a 3% tax on alcohol. It deschedules cannabis, therefore would remove 280E and therefore no longer make cannabis illegal. It has everything that we want, and this is the best possible bill. And so if any legalization bill is going to be passed, we want it to be the States Reform Act. Adding, they don't want to sell it, Mace says, noting that employment is the driving force behind the support. It opens up the hiring pool by about 10%. Brian Huseman, Amazon's vice president of public policy, that's why they're getting behind it. Not for the reasons why we should deschedule the plant or legalize, but just because it helps them get more employees. So hey, whatever's going to help free this plant. Adds, the bill offers comprehensive reform that speaks to the emergence of a bipartisan consensus to end the federal prohibition of cannabis. And if they lead with this angle, hopefully they can come to some bipartisan agreement where we can get, safe plus some form of the States Reform Act. That would be ideal, and that would be the best thing for everybody. So just wanted to share this snippet from the article. It is a long one that you can go through and grab the link below if you want, but that's basically everything that we haven't talked about in the past on this channel. While we have this article from Business Insider now, the article is here, but it's behind a paywall. But someone was kind enough to copy and paste it and put it onto Reddit, so thank you for doing that, as this Business Insider article is titled, Cannabis Investors Expect to See Institutional Firms Invest This Year 2022. So this is very different from what Pablo was insinuating with his snippet, but just wanted to add as Mitch Barachowitz, the managing partner of the cannabis investment firm Merida Capital Holdings, told Insider he expects to see institutional interest in the sector explode this year, particularly on the medical side as lawmakers weigh changes to federal cannabis policy, including allowing insurance reimbursement for medical cannabis products. So there's no timeline as to when he's saying this might be, but just wanted to share that as it's very interesting. And obviously you can grab the link below and read the whole article if you want. So on to another study though, basically just saying everything I've been relaying in past episodes, and this is news that should be out there in the mainstream and being spread everywhere as a possible early treatment, as cannabidiol inhibits SARS-CoV-2 replication through induction of the host ER stress and innate immune responses. And so this comes from Science Advances. We love to see as more and more studies are coming to the same consensus, and this one actually has 24 plus authors and was published as of January 20th, 2022. And so it's a long study. You can grab all the information if you want, but just to add the snippet and why we ought to deschedule so that we can look more into CBD as a preventative treatment, as this study highlights CBD as a potential preventative agent for early stages SARS-CoV-2 infection and merits future clinical trials. Enough said. So last few articles to highlight as governors across the U.S. tout cannabis reform progress in state of the state speeches and budgets. From New York to South Dakota, the comments and proposals from state executives demonstrate how cannabis has become more mainstream and is being talked about in high-profile venues alongside more traditional fares such as taxes, education, and infrastructure, as it should be, because the irony is that when you end cannabis prohibition, you get a lot more money for all three of these things and for the citizens of your state that you're supposed to be working for. It's also part of the growing theme as governors have increasingly brought up cannabis policy in state of the state addresses each year to kick off the new year as the legalization movement spreads. And this is all we can hope for. Politicians talking more about the plant, making the people aware that they're actually working towards solving problems that the people care about, making the people become more engaged, more informed, and wanting to take part in ending prohibition themselves. And so if you can take a look, New Jersey, you can pause to read. This is what the governor had to say. This one from New Mexico, as they plan to legalize launch their adult use program on April 1st, 2022. From New York, you can pause to read. From Rhode Island, you can pause to read. from South Dakota, one of the more painful ones because this governor is clearly not working on behalf of her citizens. You can pause to read, and then Virginia as well, last one. But again, great awareness to see that politicians are speaking about this issue because it is something that's going to solve a lot of problems when you end prohibition, and it is something that people obviously care about. Lastly, on this one from Virginia, as GOP lawmakers begin forming plans for cannabis sales launch. So again, they do not specify when, but it's just good to hear that they are planning to move it up from the 2024 launch date that was set from Democrats. As GOP lawmakers in the Virginia House of Delegates are taking their first stab at legislation to open the retail cannabis market, introducing bills that would lower the tax rate on sales and redirect proposed social equity funding to school infrastructure. Great progress. But leadership in the chamber stress that the effort remains very much a work in progress, but that they expect plenty of changes as the legislation makes its way through the committee system. We'll come up with something, says Garen Shipley, a spokesperson for House Speaker Todd Gilbert said last week. There will be a bill, there may be multiple bills, but something is going to come out of this chamber. So great to see GOP members or GOP lawmakers in Virginia working for the citizens of their state and trying to launch something that's going to benefit them sooner than later. While lastly, we have the confirmation that Thailand is the first country in Asia to move to decriminalize cannabis. So this is great news again. Good job, Thailand. Just wanted to add the story to touch off of what I mentioned last week. But Health Minister Anutin Charnvirakul announced that the Narcotics Control Board had approved the dropping of cannabis from the ministry's list of controlled drugs, which is a great move by Thai leadership and something that the Department of Justice could easily copy if Biden had the courage to take initiative, keep one of his big campaign promises, and actually work for the American people for once. And so just to add, the delisting by the ministry's Food and Drug Administration will now need to be formally signed by the health minister and enters into effect 120 days after its publication in the government gazette. So in 4 months, then it will take effect. But it follows the removal of cannabis, a plant species to which both cannabis and hemp belong, not marijuana. That was a made-up term in the 30s to make cannabis sound Mexican so they could use it to try and stop immigration, last month from the list of illegal drugs under Thailand's narcotics laws. However, this is interesting, as police and lawyers contacted by the Associated Press said it was unclear if possession of cannabis would no longer be an offense subject to arrest. It sounds like it's not, but a tangle of related laws mean that production and possession of cannabis remains regulated for the time being, leaving the legal status of recreational cannabis use in a gray area. But hey, I guess as long as you're not arresting people anymore, that's all you can hope for, and that's progress and a step in the right direction. But that is it for today's episode, folks. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis Investing News. Have a great week, everybody.